Is now still a good time?
Yeah, now it's perfect.
Okay, great. Well, to start off, let me just tell you this is like an introductory call, just get to know a little bit about your experience, tell you a little bit about the position, and see if we can be a good fit.
Okay.
To start off, we are a fintech company. We've developed a digital lending automation platform. We are really expanding our sales team here in the US. Right now, we do have one account executive, and we are looking to hire one or two more. Those can be, all over the country. Our current account executive is actually in Canada, and he's covering all territories for right now. Those territories will, of course, be split kind of based on location once we do hire the next couple of people. We did just bring on a new CRO, so he is kind of creating new plans for the sales team. So
Great.
Things like our metrics, KPIs, and quota are kind of still up in the air because he's kind of looking at, our history and, what we think would make sense to, move us forward. So wanted to be fully transparent that, some of that is kind of still up in the air and he is still looking at that. He's only been with us for a couple of weeks and he actually is on vacation this week. So he's still pretty new to the position.
Okay, great. I love to hear that.
Okay. Well, can you tell me a little bit about your experience and kind of what you're hoping this role can do for you?
Yeah, definitely. So most recently, I've been at Decide as an account executive. I started there as a sales development representative just about 2 weeks ago. Unfortunately, they did have to lay off close to a third of the company just due to financial reasons. So I am actively looking for a new opportunity, and definitely what stood out to me about Turnkey Lenders, just the amount of businesses that you guys can reach, the different kind of lending segments that you guys handle. You guys do a lot. So one, it seems like you guys are in a great position to grow. And at Decide, I sold advertising technology. I sold in a lot of different ways via in-person conferences. I had just about a 9-touch email cadence. And then as well, I've sold via social media just while I've worked at Decide as well. So it's just a lot about Turnkey that really stood out to me and what I've done recently.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about kind of your process in, the kind of sales cycle? What types of things do you look for in a client to either, qualify or disqualify that candidate for your product?
Yeah, definitely. So it's something I learned right kind of as I grew into my SDR role at Decide, was personalized outreach. Really what helped me close a lot of deals in my time was seeing what a company was already doing. So we were selling a native advertising programmatic solution where we were placing advertisements on websites, B2B companies that were selling business to consumer on like sites like Microsoft, CNN, Yahoo, and pretty much I was reaching out to the digital marketing managers and the VP of marketing as I started to see that the personalization instead of kind of a spray and pray tactic is what worked. From just doing different things like checking their LinkedIn, seeing, hey, are they interested in Gary Vee? Maybe sending them a Gary Vee ebook, as well as maybe a Starbucks gift card, a free coffee to jump on a meeting with me, or even sometimes going to, if they had like an in-office location, bring them pizzas, drop them off, put a face with my name. So just through a lot of different tactics of selling and putting a more kind of personalized touch on my outreach is what I saw help me succeed at my time and Decide.
In our company, we are still very much a startup, so we don't have, BDRs or anything like that. Our account executives are the ones who are, qualifying the leads and following up and all of that. Is that something that you're, open to doing? Are you looking to only close deals?
Yeah, no, I'm definitely open to full cycle. Before joining Decide, I did real estate sales, so I was handling the full cycle of calling, prospecting the client, setting that meeting, then kind of closing them in person over getting them to sign a listing agreement, and actually handling the deal throughout the entire process, as well as an account executive at Decide, because we were a smaller company and when we got promoted as SDRs, we never hired a new class of SDRs. So I did my own lead generation as well, and that was a full cycle role. So I'm definitely comfortable with that too.
Okay, great. Can you tell me a little bit about the types of quota or KPIs that you had and kind of the results that you got?
Yeah, so my quota for outreach was just about 400 touches a week at Decide, a mix of emails, LinkedIn messages, and also cold calls. And just about, I would say, between 7 and 8 months out of the year, I led the team in outreach numbers, and our quota for new opportunities was 3 new booked calls a week, and I led as well as a SDR. We weren't tracked on deals closed until I was an account executive, but I did close some deals as an SDR as well. When I became an account executive, I was during the ramp up period, and our goals were just about one new deal closed a month. So I hit one deal closed my first 2 months, and then the third month was January, so I didn't get a chance to kind of finish that out.
Gotcha. Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about what you're looking for in the next position that you go into, whether that be role, responsibility, culture, type of team, anything like that?
So definitely what it sounds like where Turnkey is at is a position to grow over the next few years, to grow with the company, maybe even grow as in the position and doing more. Outside of that, I'm looking for a really competitive sales team, but also one that's supportive. So if there's someone else who maybe set 5 appointments or closed 10 deal a month, like it's gonna push me, but I also want to know like, hey, what are you sending? Like, what are you saying? Give me some advice too. So I would say that's what I'm looking more on the culture side. And honestly, like I said, just somewhere where I can grow.
Okay, gotcha. Well, then let me tell you a little bit about the team. Obviously, I mentioned right now we only have one AE, but that is kind of the environment that we kind of try to build. So we are a very collaborative environment. We are going to share what's working, what types of verticals are working. Obviously, I mentioned we do typically break things up via territory. So it's not like everyone against everyone. It's usually if it comes in through this territory, this is automatically who it goes to. But yes, we are kind of that environment. Of course, the competitive part is going to be more internal drive.
Right.
If you're seeing that, other people are making 110% of their quota and you're only making 90, like maybe that's going to be like, well, wait,
Yeah.
What am I doing wrong?
Okay.
But it kind of depends on the person. Of course, some people are not like that, and maybe this isn't the environment for them, but we do typically share kind of what percentages of quota people are at. Of course, as I mentioned, the new KPIs, the new quota are kind of up in the air right now.
Okay.
I'm sure that they're not going to be much different from what they were in the past, but maybe some changes there. And we do share that. So you will hear, what the other team members are doing and how many deals they're closing and things like that. So if you're the type of person that is driven by hearing that stuff, you will.
Okay, perfect. Can you tell me a little bit more about, you mentioned it's divided up into territories. Does that look like all the verticals, maybe just in what's like your geographic location?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's typically what we do. So usually the AE that we have on now is actually a regional manager for, he typically does Canada and then Latin America. Is usually his territories. Right now he is also covering the US because we don't have anyone else. But usually we go based on kind of geographical location. So for example, if you're on, the West Coast, you're probably going to get all of the West Coast.
Right.
Potential clients, leads, all of that are going to come through just because it's easier to work within that time zone. And that's usually how we do it. If someone is located, kind of in the same place, we have multiple people, then we'll just kind of assign territories based on, what's available and kind of break it up that way. But that is usually how we do operate. I'm sure that if there's one that, you specifically bring in that happens to be in someone else's territory, I'm sure that's probably yours, but I don't know for sure. That would make sense to me, but that's usually how we do it. So geographical territory with, the leads that are coming in through marketing, through our website, all of that is typically how we do break that up. Of course, some verticals may be better than others, but we usually can work with pretty much any industry. Our platform
Perfect.
is completely configured to match what the client needs. So there definitely are some verticals from industries that tend to work out better, or we know are more likely to close. But we do have quite a bit of opportunity for what we can go for.
Okay, great. That makes a lot of sense. And then what does this success look like in the first 90 days for this role? What would you be wanting from me if I was hired for this position?
Yeah, so I can give you kind of some basics, but I'm sure that the CRO will have a little bit of a better idea as he starts, really learning about us.
Okay.
'Cause like I said, he has only been here for a couple weeks. So I would say that there will be changes, but overall, the biggest thing is going to be learning our product. We do have a pretty complicated product. It's pretty technical. There are a lot of different features that we can have. So you really have to know what we can do and what we can't when you're speaking with a client. We've had issues in the past where our sales team overpromised, where they didn't actually know the technical aspect. They just
Right.
said, yeah, we can do that. Then we get into implementation and turns out we actually can't do that. Or it's an additional cost that's not covered in what they're asking for, things like that. So you really have to know our product.
Okay.
You don't have to know the huge technical side, but you need to know the basics, the features that we can have, the features that we do have, maybe know some, case studies and different things that we've done for clients in the past. That way, when you are talking to clients, you have a good background knowledge of our product. I would say that's one of the harder things about being here, is it's a lot of kind of technical information and really having to know a product. So I would say people who have experience working in SaaS previously
Right.
tend to do better, because they do need to understand kind of the technical side of the product. That's probably kind of the biggest thing in your first couple months is going to be really, really learning that product, learning a lot of the case studies and some of our past clients and what's worked for them and kind of hearing some of those kind of ins and outs. And then, of course, you would also be listening to previous sales calls, things like that. And again, I don't know if this is going to change with the new CRO, but what we used to do was kind of not like tests or anything, but presentations where we would have a couple of our executives on a call and
Mhm.
you would present your sales pitch,
Oh, great.
your demo, things like that,
Yeah.
kind of as milestones in your training. And then kind of use different industries, different user cases to allow you to kind of get practice in each of those things.
Okay. I like that a lot.
And then, of course, building out your pipeline, they would probably start, since we don't have, BDRs or anything, probably start with that. Start trying to qualify some leads before you're jumping on full sales calls, and then kind of work up to that is kind of typically what they're going to be expecting at first. But ultimately, this would be an account executive role, and within probably about 3 months, we would expect that you would be able to start selling. Hopefully, even sooner than that.
Yeah,
It really
definitely.
depends on how quickly you kind of pick up the product.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And then in your time, like at Turnkey, just with it being a startup, what would you say the culture is like? What are some of the things that you guys do together or that you like about Turnkey?
Yeah, so I'm actually in charge of putting the events together as well. So we don't do a ton right now. We do have a pretty small team and we were kind of spread out quite a bit, but we do like a Christmas party every year. We are trying to also do, when we do our quarterly business reviews, we're hoping that we can get their other team members to fly out here to Austin.
Oh, sweet.
And have, do our QBR in person and then do things like a dinner escape room, things
Yeah,
like
that's
that.
really cool.
Since we're all pretty much all remote and virtual, we want to kind of start building that out. And then kind of a little bit about the culture. It's actually kind of similar to what I was saying earlier. Like everyone is very supportive and communicative, and we want to brainstorm and share ideas. And we're still very much that startup culture where we know things need to change, right?
Yeah.
You know, we are not doing things the best way possible right now. And as we grow, we're going to need to change the way we do things. And that's just, you know, a fact of being a startup
I love
and
that
trying to
mindset.
grow.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So we're always open to people making recommendations, to helping to build out processes. It's one of the things that we really look for as someone who, you know, has, of course, the experience that we're looking for, but wants to help with that process improvement and can make those recommendations and can kind of see where in this process maybe we're not being as efficient as we could be, or maybe the messaging that we're sending is not, you know, what you've seen success with in the past, and making those recommendations. So that's a big part of our culture as well. Constant process improvement is definitely still something that we're working on. I've been at the company for about 2 years now, and I would say, you know, we're definitely still working on it, and I'm sure that we probably always will be.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I like that a lot. That makes me feel good about the culture in the company. That's great. My last question, can you just tell me a little bit more about the budget range or that you have for the salary?
Yeah, so of course OTE is going to depend on, you know, you meeting your quota, going above and beyond your quota, all that. We
Of course.
don't have a sales cap on your commission,
Great.
So don't need to worry about that. You know, if you're making, you know, 110% of your quota, then you're going to get 110% of, you know, what your commission is supposed to be. So that's kind of how we operate on that side. As far as base salary, we do have a pretty wide range just because we don't have like a specific experience level that we're looking for. But we are looking anywhere from probably 130 to like 160-ish. Again, just depending on the experience. And that's, like I said, a general range. Final decision is going to be up to our C-level.
Okay, great. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, what are the next steps moving forward?
Yeah, so next steps are also still up in the air a little bit. Like I mentioned, our CRO is on vacation, and so he has not gotten back to me on what he wants the full interview process to look like. But I did want to start interviewing. That way I had, you know, a batch of candidates to present to him when he got back.
Okay.
My guess for the next step is either going to be speaking with him or our other salesperson here in the U.S.
Okay, great. In the meantime, would you be able to send me, whether it's like case studies or white pages or just some more information on kind of like what a deal with Turnkey would look like? Maybe even if I could see like what an ideal client would look like too.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, if you go on our LinkedIn or our website, we have quite a few case studies. We have a blog that we share a lot of those and kind of use as collateral on our LinkedIn and our website. So we actually have quite a few up there. So they should be pretty easy to find. If you have any questions about them, I'm happy to try to answer those. But we do actually have quite a few that should be readily available if you need to use those to prep.
Okay, perfect. I'll check those out. Are there any like industries or vertical you would recommend to start in? Like that maybe you guys do business in the most?
Yeah, so it is kind of all over the place, I will say, but interestingly enough, like the majority of our clients are not like your typical like banking or FinServ type of company. We do have some of those, but a lot of the time we end up working with alternative lenders. So, for example, like Orthodontia, like Smile Direct Club, for example, does their own lending, right? Veterinary services often do their own lending kind of in-house for large things. Same with like medical. So kind of things like that are kind of typically what ends up working best for us.
Okay.
So I think like any alternative lending that kind of does lending in-house. We also have a buy now, pay later program within our product as well. So
that's nice.
I would say those types of things tend to work out the best for us.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions that I can answer for you?
I know I had some more questions that were kind of digging in more of like the sales cycle, like common objections or like competitors. But I figured those would be a little bit more for the next one.
Yeah. I can give you like a little bit about kind of the typical time frame on sales cycle, but a lot of those details will be best for next step. typical timeline for the sales cycle, we want, of course, closing a deal as fast as we can is always going to be the goal.
Right.
But typically, I'd say it takes a couple months, maybe like 2 to 5 months or so, depending on, how quickly the client is actually looking to make a decision. Some were able to close pretty quickly, within a month or two, no problem in, finding it and closing it in the same quarter. Others drag their feet a little bit more, have more decision makers, need more details, all of that, want to go through multiple demos.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say it depends, but that's probably the typical sales cycle.
Okay. How much would you just say is needed though on your end from is it just document wise or from the clients, how quick, say a client comes in, they want to get started right away, how quick can you get them going?
Yeah, so it'll depend always on what the pipeline currently looks like, because of course if our implementation team, has projects that they're really set on and they're in the middle of, then we can't really do anything about that. But if they're kind of closing out a project and able to start another one pretty soon, it should just be, a couple of weeks. So of course, going through the sales cycle of the demos, having, clients legal, look over, the contracts and all of that, all of the proposals, then it would just be a matter of how the pipeline for the implementation team is looking on how soon we could start their development.
Okay, great. That makes a lot of sense then.
Any other questions?
I mean, for now, honestly, those were the majority of the questions I had. You answered a lot of questions just about kind of where Turnkey is at, that the role is going to be growing, it's going to be dynamic. So really, I'm looking forward to the next steps. I appreciate everything we went over today as well, Sam. It was a blast.
Perfect. If you do think of any other questions, please feel free to reach out and let me know. But other than that, I'd say you'll probably hear back from me early next week. Pretty much as soon as our CRO gets back, I'm going to be meeting with him to go over the candidates that I do have in the pipeline.
Okay.
So I'd probably say Tuesday or Wednesday or so is most likely when you'll hear back.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'll definitely have some questions. I'm gonna check out the case study, so I'll email you a few of those for sure. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, happy to help. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. As far as a timeline to start, I know you said that you're looking now. From an offer, how much time would you need?
I mean, from an offer, I'm pretty ready to get started immediately. If you guys were looking for someone to jump in and get going a week and a half from now, I'd be ready. So
okay. As far as compensation goes, what are you trying to target?
It's something in that range of 130 to 160 definitely would work for me.
Okay. And how about for OTE?
For OTE, I mean that was a question I kind of had, but it seems I mean, do you have kind of an OTE that the account executive, the one that you have now, has been hitting, or what do you see that like?
Not that I know of, but I also was not a part of his offer or anything like that. He's been with us for 9 years, so
yeah. I know you said it was uncapped too, so I mean, as much as I can earn.
Cap. So it's really just gonna depend on, of course, your activity, but yeah, so I don't have an OTE off the top of my head for what that would look like, but we do our best to try to meet kind of what your expectations are and lay out a commission plan that's going to make sense to try to get you there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm in sales, so as many deals as I can close as uncapped, so I'm all for setting a record for the OTE.
Okay. All right. And then do you now or will you in the future require sponsorship?
I will not.
Okay. All right. I think that's pretty much everything that I had. Like I said, if you do think of any other questions, just go ahead and reach out and let me know. But I'd say, yeah, early next week, middle of the week is probably when you'll hear back. And I can let you know what next steps are going to be at that time. Okay, perfect. Well, I'm looking forward to it, Sam. I appreciate our conversation, and hopefully you have a great weekend. Yes, you too. Have a great weekend. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Damn, bro. 130 to 160?